Hey everyone, welcome to New Moon in Libra. So much happens every time. I mean, it's like 3 days is like 3 weeks lately. So there's a lot going on. Don't try and keep up. It's not worth it. You're going to crash and burn and be really unhappy. If you need to back off, back off. If you're ready to be in the thick of things, get in the thick of things. That's okay. Be where you are. And that's okay. You don't have to be on 24/7. You can step away. You can read the analysis. You can read the aftermath. You don't have to be right there going, yeah, we saw it right now. And yeah, blah, 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 blah. It's okay. You don't have to. It's okay. It's like there's this boundary that can be very kind of difficult right now of self-care and community care. Does that make sense? It's like, how can you practice community care and self-care at the same time and balance those two out? What's going to make your community better? How can you participate in that? And a lot of that too is if you're tired, run down, don't feel good, you can't really fully participate in that community care. You can't really fully participate in family care, let alone everything else. So there's this point where, where does self-care become necessary, and where do you really need to look at it and see, do I need to extend that out, that theory of community care or family care? Because sometimes, if you have a family or you're taking care of an elderly relative, self-care is hard to come by. And we always talk about oh, it's so easy, just do some self-care. It's not always easy. If you have someone who demands your time pretty much all the time, self-care becomes very challenging. And you shouldn't beat yourself up if you're one of those people that have that challenge. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay to have self-care challenges, especially around other people that you have to care for. You can't just be like, sorry, baby, you don't get a diaper change. I'm self-caring right now. You change the baby's diaper. Same with, if you're taking care of someone who is disabled, elderly, whatever, you don't always have full command of your time. So how do you bring in that balance? How do you bring in the balance of self-care, family care, community care? And I think part of that right now is just potentially avoiding a lot of the toxic stuff that's out there that is extremely toxic and gaslighting. So you got to pick where you're going to funnel that energy is a lot of it. And I think that kind of Libra is, there's this balance that you can't always get because life's not perfect and we don't live in a perfect world. So, okay, let's get to the card reading here. I have the Sacred Creators Oracle this moon, and the Aquarian Tarot, along with the handmade affirmation cards, which there are 5 decks currently for sale. If you want to, feel free to pick them one. They are all handmade. I did these by hand, people. They are. I printed up the little papers and then I glued them on. But they're all hand painted. They're all different. Even the little sayings are a little different. So, alrighty. So, our guide card is Get Back to Element. Ooh, using a different camera. So, what we're seeing here is, what's the word I'm looking for? It's that balance, getting back to the elemental. It's that whole balance of things of needing to Find that balance. It's that self-care, family care, community care. Where do you bring those in? How do you avoid the toxicity that is going on everywhere and gaslighting and all that kind of stuff? How do you bring yourself down? Who do you choose to listen to? Who do you engage with? Do you have a variety of media sources where you are able to get your news? So, white cards are just so difficult. There we go. So you're getting back to the basics. You're getting back to the core of things. What is really important in your life? Get back to elemental. Self-care, family care, community care. How do you participate in those and keep yourself safe and your family safe and everyone you interact with real time safe? You know, it's a very valid question right now. So bring it back to the very basics. So if you're feeling like you're struggling, 5 minutes, we say, let's take exercise. Exercise. Trying to get like stress levels down. 5 minutes. 5 minutes of movement. Any kind. Gentle, vigorous, whatever. Pick how you want to do it and then go for it. Don't be like, oh, I guess can't do it because I don't got an hour. 5 minutes of daily exercise will help. Just simply, I am guilty of this, ignoring bodily things, hungry. Oh, I need to pee. I'll just do one more thing and then I'll get up and do it. I should really move. I'm feeling stiff. I'll just 2 more things. I'll do it. I'm really good at ignoring all that stuff. Sometimes when I'm in the flow of working, I'm like, oh no, just a little bit more. Type, 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 type. And that in itself is a back to the elemental. Of not ignoring that, like, oh, gee, I've been sitting for a really long time and I feel uncomfortable. I should get up and move. Instead of ignoring that, you do it. Get up and move. Get up out of it and go move. Hungry? Go eat. If you need to pee, go pee. I'm so bad at that. Like, just a little bit more. Oh, I can't wait anymore. It's not necessarily a very good thing to foster. And I do work on that, but it's like, yeah, let's just, no, not one more thing. Just go now. Get some food, go get some, water's another one. Keep your water nearby. Those little things that bring it back to basics: food, nutrition, air, breath, water. A little bit of exercise in there. You know, and everyone's going to have different things because not everyone has the same mobility. So you do what works for you. That's one of the things I'm working on this year is ableist language and ableist thinking and thinking like, because I'm realizing as I came back after a 2-year break from exercise for various reasons that those 2 years I wasn't super grounded because I wasn't exercising. Exercise for me is what really keeps my brain from exploding all the time. And it still pretty much explodes, but not as frequently. My practice has a physicality to it that a lot of people can't do. And that's okay. How does that physicality work for you? And you may be a much more grounded person. I got a lot of fire in me, and it just goes. And I could totally live in my head and not have an issue with it. So for me, you know, getting back to basics is making sure I get plenty of exercise. And right now that's pretty much weightlifting, yoga, and yoga and some dance stuff. I'm doing some dance stuff. It's been fun to get back into doing a little bit of ballet and modern dance kind of stuff. I did a lot. I was always dancing as a teen. I love to dance. And so right now that's what I do. I lift weights. I do a lot of yoga. And I do throw in some Pilates and some dance workout once a week. It's a lot of fun. So this is the Aquarian Tarot. So who do we got here? Oh, not the first part. 7 of Rods. So I feel like this is what we're being presented with everything right now in our balance here. What are you going to do with it? Are you going to just go like, whoo, bye-bye? I'm done with it, over it. Forget that Libra moon. That moon and new moon and Libra, whatever, Becky. We're just done with it. We're throwing a rod away. Or are you going to be like, hey, I got this rod. How can I make the most of it? Let's make the most of it. Let's find where that balance is. And each person's balance is defined by them. It's defined by you. Don't let someone else tell you what your balance is. This is what you need to do. It's not about what works for little Becky Sue down the street. It's what works for you. It's not what works for me. It's what works for you. So don't let someone tell you that your balance is wrong. That's like my grounding. I'm probably, even with all the exercise I do, a lot more ungrounded than a lot of people in my brain. It's always going. I'm always thinking. For me, a good balance is thought, lots of thinking, in a healthy manner, not the doom and gloom, not reliving, and the total space out. Daydreaming. Daydreaming is so underrated. We're told not to do it in school. No, stop daydreaming. Stop mooning about. For me, that balance of thinking comes with a really big dose of being able just to, it's almost like a trance-like state, really, frankly, of being able to not think. Not thinking is sometimes a really good thing. So where's your balance? You define the balance, not someone else. Don't let them be like, yeah, it's your balance. You be like, whatever. Yeah, and if you have to, and someone's doing that to you, you can just be like, oh, okay. Go home, do your thing. So, I learned that in high school. Yeah, okay. Three of Pentacles. So, this one kind of, he's like working, but this one always kind of just makes me feel like he's trying to climb up that wall into that arch. What work do you need to do? Where's the work at? And how can you make that work feel good? Because Pentacles are wealth, family, health, abundance, all those kind of things. Self-care, family care, community care. So how are you building this pinnacle? How are you building this in your life? And it may feel like a bit of a struggle. Sometimes we do really good at it, and other times we don't too. It's not always a static creature, and you need to remember it's not always going to be the same. Things change drastically. It's like that 2 years exercise. I've been really sick, and I had severe reaction to the laundry detergent we used for years, and it took me like 2-3 months to work through that because we weren't really sure what it was because nothing had changed. So it took quite a while for that to for me to feel better because it's like my epidermis wherever my clothes touched. So it was a big healing. And I didn't really do a lot of exercise. I also didn't realize I was a process person, and I didn't track. So I just really was kind of like, well, whatever. And I let it go. Then then the next year I was going to get back at it. I tried to do more exercise, and my dad died. And then that year was pretty much a complete write-off for a lot of things. So, sometimes there's reasons that the self-care needs to change. Exercise, as I was trying to heal my skin, did not need another stressor in my system. So I had to, use that Three of Pentacles and create new ways of being and self-care. And for a couple of years, that was not doing anything. By the end of that 2 years, I was like, I need to work. Exercise had to come back in because I was feeling all creaky and not good. So now it's back. But there was a 2-year period where, while important, and maybe things would have been a little bit smoother in some ways if I would exercise more. Who knows? But that's neither here nor there. The idea is, the point I'm making is that it changes. It's not a stagnant thing. It doesn't stay the same all the time. And you need to understand that things do change within your life. And it's, the self-care, family care, community care is not always going to look the same. So I just randomly pulled a card, and we got Angel Heart. So bring in the messages that your heart is saying. What is your heart telling you to do? Are you really listening to it, or are you ignoring it? It's always a good question. It's like, am I paying attention to what's going on within me, within my heart, or am I just ignoring it? So let's do a quick recap. Get back. Come on, you can do it. Ugh, there we go. Get back to the element. Get back to basics. And those basics are defined by you. And I would focus right now on self-care, family care, community care. Make those the kind of pillars of where you're at. Seven of Rods. How are you using balance in your life? Are you actually taking hold of it, or are you just kind of like, oh, whatever? And, you know, sometimes we don't have a lot of balance. Sometimes things are not always within our control, and we need to acknowledge when it's not and be okay with that for the most part. You know, you can be working towards a goal of doing something else. So, Three of Pentacles. And this kind of goes into that working towards something else. How are we creating things? How are we working that self-care, family care, and community care into our lives and building kind of a base out of it, because we're listening to the messages, because angel in Greek, angelos, means messenger. What are the messages coming to our hearts? How are we going to use that? And that's it for this new moon in Libra. It's a wonderful, wonderful new moon. And just go out there and be the love in the world. And remember, family care, self-care, family care, community care. They are all intertwined, and it will look different every day, probably, at this point in time. So, alrighty. Bye-bye.